Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to This Is a Rewind, a look back at what wrestling used to be and possibly still should be. Now with me is always my tag team partner, Shelby Death Ray Patterson. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, hon?
I feel like I have not done this with you in ages.
You know why? It's because we haven't done it in ages.
Yeah, it's...
I mean, with the 1,050, pay-per-views we've had to cover and the holidays and everybody's schedules, I think we kind of pushed this under the radar for a little bit, but we're back.
Yeah, that's right. And you also... Now, I think our listeners probably already know this just because of other podcasts.
Yes.
But do you have an announcement for us?
I do, yes. For listeners who did not hear on This Is a Takeover, I am pregnant.
I didn't even know that we were dating.
This will be a shock to my husband. But yeah, I'm due in June, and it's very exciting. That's also a little bit of a reason why we haven't gotten together, because I have been exhausted.
Yes. And so have I.
Yes.
I've got a new
you're pregnant
job.
too? That's awesome.
I am.
Congrats.
But we don't know who the mother is. That's the problem.
That's a little awkward, especially with your wife, Kara, on the ones and twos tonight. So sorry. She's staring blankly. I mean, she doesn't look like she cares too much, but we'll see.
Better her than me.
I love the support.
Oh, I know. It takes your breath away.
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to be back, because we have a lot in store for this year. Like we have a lot going on.
We really do. We're gonna call this year the Year of Greats.
Yes.
And what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a wrestler each month, and we're gonna profile them. I feel like I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little news before we get into this.
I was wondering if I know that you knew. I knew that you knew about it, but I was just curious if we were going to tap into that, because honestly, that's been our topic of conversation on this show for the past few episodes.
It really has. So we'll start out with the main one.
Yeah.
So Vince McMahon apparently is returning to the board of trustees for WWE Entertainment.
Which I feel like everybody kind of called this one, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we kind of said from the beginning that we were like, yeah, I think this is going to be the start of a new era, but he's not fully going to go away, right? Because he's still majority shareholder of this company. So he still has the right to make all of these big ticket decisions, and he's the last man on the totem pole, if you will, about these big decisions. So he can kind of strong arm his way back in some way or another, and I guess he figured out how.
2 of the board members resigned as a result of this. Yeah,
which, I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, you go through all of the investigation that they did and, weeks and weeks of, scrutiny and just trying to sort all this out just for him to come back, not even a year later.
I mean, kudos to them for having morals and sticking to them.
Agreed. I mean, I'm shocked it was only 2 people who resigned, because I mean, that had to be hell to go through all of that.
Everybody's got a mortgage,
that's true, and I'm sure all of them have very, very big mortgages.
Yes, they do. I'm very jealous.
But yeah, so it's him and 2 other people who are now part of the board, which I'm guessing are just his wingmen, or yes men, I guess. But yeah, so he is back as basically chairman of the board, and I don't really know how all that works and what that means for decision wise for creative, if that means that, because Triple H is still head of creative,
right?
So
but for how long? That's right.
That's the scary part.
Yeah. Are we going back to Vince McMahon walking into the writer's room, tearing up the script and rewriting it on at 6 p.m. on a Monday?
God, I hope not. I really hope not, because I feel like now they have started to get their groove and they've started to get their, their rhythm, and Triple H is really has a Royal Rumble card that's starting to be really, really good. And if everybody remembers last year's Royal Rumble, it was not great.
It was not.
I mean, I think it was the men's Royal Rumble is on record for being the worst match of 2022.
Yeah.
Like across multiple media platforms.
Yeah. Oh, I remember saying it. And
it was, the whole pay-per-view was terrible.
Yeah.
So like,
how do you mess up the Royal Rumble?
well, that's why it was the worst match of 2022 across multiple media platforms, because everybody was asking that question. But I honestly have no idea. I really don't know what it's going to look like. I'm sure this is not going to be the last time we talk about it, but I think it will be. I think there's going to be some sort of a creative fight for sure.
I cringe to think about it, because we were getting so strong.
We were getting there,
and now, and I even wonder certain things about Charlotte comes back.
Wins the title immediately.
Immediately, she pulled a Becky Lynch on us, which, now here's the thing. I'm not mad about that.
Oh, I am.
I
have opinions. I'm honestly, I'm sick of that format. I'm sick of I'm going to go away for a bit, and then when I come back, I immediately...
Poof.
Exactly. Immediately, I'm the champion, and then it just disrupts any build
I agree
that
with
anybody
this.
had.
I agree with that. I'll tell you where I differ, and that is, look, Rousey, I'm so disappointed at what's happened with her.
Like, such a fall from grace, too.
Oh, my God.
Because when she came out, was it 2018 with Kurt Angle?
Yes.
With against Triple H and Stephanie, like, and she squared up with Triple H, like, it was great.
Such a good match.
Yeah, it was great.
It was fun, and everything that she did for like 7 or 8 months was fun.
But she's what I'm gonna call a Randy Orton. I've said this on multiple shows, like.
Yeah.
Randy Orton, to people who don't understand that reference, Randy Orton is a wrestler that when he shows up when he wants to show up mentally, right? So you can tell when he does not want to be there, the match suffers, everybody suffers, but when he wants to be there, he's great. So Brock Lesnar is one of those people.
Yeah.
And I think Ronda Rousey has become a Randy because she just does not care anymore, and so all of her matches suffer because of it.
See, I don't even think it's that she doesn't care. I think it's worse than that. Mm-hmm. I think she doesn't get it.
Oh, 100%. I agree with that.
I would much rather see a Randy Orton doing a match that he doesn't want to do, because even at Randy Orton's worst, he's still damn good.
That's fair. Yeah. No, I can agree with that.
Ronda, at her best, is meh.
Meh. That's a good word. That's a good word to describe it.
And
so you're saying that you're fine with Charlotte coming in and taking it off of her because that needed to happen.
It's her.
I get it. No, I get that story-wise. I just don't like the overall concept of it.
I agree. And if it was anybody else but Rousey, I would have a problem with it too.
Which, I mean, I love me some Becky Lynch, but when that happened at SummerSlam, I was pissed about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy she was back and everything, but that was not the way to go about it. So in that situation, definitely not the way you should have done it. But I understand where you're coming from with this, but I still don't like the concept.
Right. And, and speaking of meh, let's discuss Wrestle Kingdom very briefly. Just briefly.
All I really know about it is the former Sasha Banks debuting. I mean, is that kind of what you're talking about?
That's really the only thing I've had.
Yeah. So basically, Sasha Banks is a wrestler who has gone back and forth ever since her and Naomi walked out and left the women's tag team championships on John Laurinaitis' desk and left Raw.
Yeah.
She and
maybe
Naomi.
they had a reason. Maybe they were just in the business for themselves.
What I heard was the popular theory that's going around is that they did not like the direction that their story was going, and basically where the women tag team women's division was going. And I can agree with that 100%.
I can too.
And I think they did not agree with where it was headed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they didn't feel like they were being treated respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted the belts to mean something, and they weren't going to do that. So that's why they left. And honestly, with Sasha's track record, I could totally see that being
100%.
what happened. But since then, her and Naomi, it's been very nebulous on like, are they still under contract? Are they going to come back? Like now that Triple H is head of creative, like are they going to go to AEW? Like what's the deal?
Mm-hmm.
Ever since like May,
Yeah.
right?
It was about May. Yeah.
And we're in January of the next year now. So all of a sudden it's announced that Sasha Banks is going to be at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say what for, right? So there's all this anticipation. And then she actually debuts with a new ring name. It is Mercedes Moné.
Monet.
Yes. And
hate
is
it.
now challenging Kyrie.
That's her name. That's her name.
Yes.
That's the name that no one gave her. I just
she came up with it.
I need all the people that love and adore and respect and think such wonderful things about Sasha Banks to understand her creative freedom
You're getting so upset about it.
was Mercedes Moné.
So it is spelled Mone, but no like asterisk over, no emphasis or whatever. I
No.
can't remember. The name is escaping me. The little mark that goes over the, you know what I'm talking about, right? Anyway, accent mark. Thank you. Nothing like that. Just
No.
Monet. And I automatically think of Frankie Monet, which was a very small character that Taya Valkyrie did on NXT for like 2
Right.
seconds. But that's my reference for it.
The CEO of New Japan's women's division.
Because she can't say the boss.
Yeah.
Because WWE
Again.
still owns the boss.
Again, people, out of this creative mind that was shackled
Oh,
in
God.
WWE,
Okay, that's a bit much.
the CEO, not the legit boss.
Or as you like to lovingly call her, the legit botch.
Speaking of which, did you see her new finisher?
I did. And that was a legit botch.
Wow.
Which, apparently she has been training in Mexico. That's what she's been doing this entire time. And people are saying that if that is what she's been doing this entire time, maybe she needs to go back. I don't know. Because it was not a good move at all.
She needs her money back.
She needs her
Yeah,
Monet
her Monet
back.
back.
Money back. Yes.
But yeah, that has rocked everybody outside of WWE because New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW have a partnership. It's dissolving at the moment.
It is.
But it is still there.
Yeah.
And so everyone is like, oh, well, this means that she's going to be Saraya's mystery
partner.
tag partner. And then
even though it's already been announced as Tony Storm.
Yeah, I think that's a ruse. I don't think it's going to be her. But anyway, yeah, so she finally landed somewhere, and people are like, "Oh, well, she's officially done now."
Yeah.
But honestly, in the world of wrestling that we live in nowadays, especially with Vince McMahon returning in less than a year,
Yeah.
and like all this stuff with CM Punk and the Young Bucks, like all of that stuff that happened in 2022, I honestly don't believe anything anymore.
No. Well, at least she made up for everything with that awesome promo she cut after. Folks, I don't
Dude.
ever want to hear people refer to her as a future Hall of Famer ever again. I don't want to hear she's a legend. She's a living legend. She's the best the WWE has ever seen.
Now, I don't know if I've
my
heard people say
God.
that about her.
Oh,
Really? I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure there's people out there.
Online. you
Sure,
know.
of course.
No, I mean, none of our crew.
Well, no. But yeah, it was a very interesting debut. We'll say that. And I think it'll be very interesting going forward. And
Yeah.
her hairdo is also very eclectic,
Yeah.
I'll say. So I think it was a bold swing and kind of a bold miss.
Oh, boy, was it. In my eyes,
yeah.
it was.
And so, yeah, that's, I mean, we did a whole podcast where we talked about all the other stuff that happened. But, you know, it's still a lot. You know,
It's a
we just
lot.
started 2023, guys. This is only day 6.
I know. Oh, my God, what else is going to happen?
You know, probably like twice as much as what happened in 2022. So,
I'll tell you what's going to happen next.
Yes.
We're going to talk about one of the actual greats.
What a segue, dude.
I know, right?
You're just on it.
That's how I do things.
Yeah, I
That's
love it.
It's all coming up dogs in 2023.
I love it. Well, because the whole point of this series that we wanted to do is highlight who, in our eyes, between the two of us, are the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
Right? And because I came up with a list, you came up with a list, and our producer, Kara.
Our spouses
Our spouses,
took
yes.
the lists from us and came up with their own damn list and gave it back to us. And
You know,
that's
I thought it was a great idea. I feel like they really, you know, the list is very encompassing of both of ours.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and I think y'all did a great job.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's great. Them, you know, taking away our stuff from us. It's,
Oh
I mean,
gosh. You know, you're just being mad again because it wasn't your idea.
well, I'm sleepy.
Right? Am I right, Kara? Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But I think this one that we're about to do is probably the best one we could have started with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why they have chosen for us for this month Steve Austin.
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy we're starting with this one.
Me too.
Well, this was the only one. So as we get a little insider baseball here, this was the only one that we both had on our list.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's very appropriate that we're starting with this one.
I like this one, especially for the start of the new year, just because I was doing a lot of thinking about this on the way home. And two things come to mind when you think about Steve Austin and his rise. Pure hard work, and 2, unadulterated luck.
What?
Yes, I will explain. I will explain.
Thank you, Kara.
What?
Because I gotta tell you, he started out. We'll jump right into it.
Yeah.
You know, he starts out in Texas at the time. This is in the I want to say this is the late 60s. You know, watching wrestling on TV during the mid 70s. He went to train. I'm sorry, for a company right down the road from the Sportatorium, WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling, the home of the Von Erichs.
Oh, wow.
Does it get much better? He's 30 minutes from them.
Wow.
Now, he is trained, if that weren't enough, he's trained by Gentleman Chris Adams. This is the originator of the super kick. It's not
Whoa.
Shawn Michaels. It is Gentleman Chris Adams.
Wow, I've never heard of him before.
Oh, I got some tapes for you.
Oh, I'm sure.
Gentleman Chris Adams is he's a Englishman and was trained over in England in the English style, which is a little more smash mouth than the American style. And that's the guy that trained Steve Austin. So right off the bat, he's a blonde ex-football player with $1 million body.
See, it's so funny when you say that he's blonde because I've only ever seen him when he's bald.
I know.
That's what I was thinking. I'm trying to even picture him with hair.
Long blonde hair. I think producer Kara can.
I'll pull
Yeah?
up a picture because honestly, he showed me a picture. He said, "Do you know who this guy is?" And I was like, "No, he looks ridiculous." Yeah.
Oh no! What blasphemy!
Yeah. So yeah, he gets.
But that makes sense with the British strong style.
Mhm.
You know.
Which is also how he met his first wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because she was originally married to Chris Adams.
Stop it! Really?
Yes.
That's funny.
Started coming out with Austin, and then that was the thing. He was Steve Williams. That's his real name. Check that out.
Oh my god.
Now that's not even. That's.
I mean, he's gorgeous though.
See,
Listeners,
now-
I would implore you to look up Steve Austin with hair. That is a gorgeous man.
Well, let's show you the one with the long blonde hair.
Let's see.
So that's Kara's pulling that up right now.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Wow. I would have never thought that was him.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that just got better looking. the
Right?
older he got.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah, definitely listeners go look it up because this is not the same guy that I remember from my childhood for
Right?
sure. That's crazy.
So yeah, he feuds. His first feud is with Gentleman Chris Adams. How do you? I mean, you break into the business, and yes, he's green and he doesn't really know but he's learning.
Right.
He goes to Tennessee for a couple of weeks to get extra training and more work because up there they wrestled every week. And it's like being dropped in France and not knowing how to speak French.
Sounds like summer stock theater.
Yeah.
For our friends who are in the arts, it's basically the same deal. So you start at the beginning of the summer, you do orientation, you rehearse the show and learn the show in 2 weeks, and then you put it up and you run it for the entire summer.
Yeah.
So that sounds very similar.
It's exactly what it is. Well, he is introduced to a man. You may remember him. It's been a while, but you might remember a manager by the name of Zeb Coulter.
The name sounds familiar, but I can't really place him.
Jake Hagerman. I'm sorry. Jack Swagger. Sorry.
I was about to say that Jack Swagger.
Yeah.
Oh, is he the guy with the
with the hover round.
Oh, with the no, that's not
Yes,
the curly
with the
mustache.
long. Yes.
He was
Zeb-
with him in Swiss.
Yes.
With Cesaro.
Yes, and his
Oh.
name, his real name is Dutch Mantel.
That's okay. Yes. I know him as Dutch Mantel. So his.
Oh, you do?
Yes, so
oh, look at you!
Yeah,
I'm so proud.
Oh, thank you. No, because he was the manager for, I think they were called the True Americans or the Real Americans.
Real Americans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Jack Swagger and Cesaro, now the Claudio
Mm-hmm.
Castagnoli. Both of them being in AEW now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how I was introduced to Cesaro. Actually, was
Yeah.
through Dutch Mantel.
Yes. So he's been in the business for a long time. He was booking in Tennessee as also as a manager, and he goes up and he meets Steve Williams. And he says, okay, well, you can't be Steve Williams because there's already a Dr. Death Steve Williams here. So take 15 minutes, come up with a name. I'll be back. Comes back like an hour later and says, okay, what do you got? And he's like, I got nothing. He was like, okay, fine. You're Steve Austin.
Oh my gosh.
Because he came out of Austin.
So one of the most like iconic names in wrestling was literally just like pulled out of a manager's ass.
Yeah. And and he says, well, I can't be Steve Austin because that's the $6 million man. And he's like, I don't have time for this. And just boom, Steve Austin.
Wow. I feel like the best names are figured out that way.
Yeah.
Right? Like because you hear stories like that all the time. I feel like I can't remember who's coming to my head right now, but there's other people that have told
Just
that same story.
Boom,
that
lightning
like,
in a bottle.
I'm about to go out. I have no idea. The ring announcer looks at me. What's your name, kid? And I had said, I don't know. And then the ring announcer made it up, and then it became my name. You know, I love those stories.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too, because it's just the lightning in the bottle stories.
Right.
That's it just doesn't happen because everything is manufactured now.
Right.
So I love that. So he wrestles for a little bit in Tennessee, goes back down to Texas, feuds with Gentleman Chris Adams, takes his girl
In real life.
in real life.
Well, this was also back when a lot of guys imitated the business in their real life.
Right.
Right. So. And maybe that was part of the feud, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I'll just take her anyway."
Yeah, and at this point, the Jarretts, who were running Memphis, had just bought World Class down there, so it became USWA, and he goes into that. And now he's wrestling Chris Adams as a feud. I can't put this over enough, guys. Chris Adams was the man. He was awesome. Yes, he had his problems just like every wrestler that came in out of the 70s.
Sure.
Yes, he smacked his old lady around.
Oh God. Maybe that's why she left.
Well, Austin smacked her around too. So,
God. Yeah.
I mean, look, all our heroes are flawed. So.
That's why we don't meet them.
Right.
Exactly. There's truth to that saying.
So, and here's another thing. His wife, at that time, Jenny, she's the one that came up with Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Again, all these names he's not coming up with.
That's cute pillow talk.
Right. The whole thing was he had come to WWE, and he had watched this serial killer, and he was like, wow, man, that guy's and he had studied him and watched him. He's like, that's who I need to be like. Because he's ice cold. I mean, so he goes to WWE Creative and he says, this is what I'm talking about. And he starts talking about how cold his eyes were. He says, and I'm thinking it's got to be something cold. It's got to be something like he's ice. He's something like that. Mm-hmm. So Creative goes out, and then they come back with the stupid, like one of them was like Frosty McFreezenbottom or some shit like that. I don't know.
One of them like the Iceman?
Something like that. Like
yeah.
I don't think the Iceman's a little too good.
Right, but I feel like it was something.
It was there was like three of them.
They were all related to actual ice. Or snow or something. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he's sitting there, he's looking at these names. He's like, what in the hell am I going to do? It's like, this is ridiculous. And his wife had just set him some tea down and some hot tea. And she said, why don't you think about it later? Just drink your tea before it turns stone cold. And boom, there it is.
I love that story.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And to hear, this didn't last very long, but to hear like once he became Stone Cold Steve Austin, those first 3 weeks, to hear him do a promo was very different than the oh hell yeah, we're ready.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean that's just like any new character that someone tries out. Like it's like most of the time it's not going to look the same.
Yeah.
You know, even like a couple of months in versus when they start.
But he didn't start out that way, speaking of that. Because once he left, he got into USWA, he got a call from WCW.
I've heard of them.
That quick. Gentleman Chris Adams, Zeb Coulter, WCW. That quick, folks, which goes back to my point of luck.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
Like, is that you got some legends in the business that you're running with.
See, to me, that seems, it is luck, right? But that seems like fate to me.
It's luck,
right?
But if you're working hard, and he was.
Right, yeah, of course.
When luck does come, you're ready for it.
Right, because I feel like fate finds a way to point you in the right direction, right? Yeah. So, like, this is obviously where he's supposed to go and where he's supposed to be. So let me just lay out everything for you.
Yeah, just right down the primrose path.
Exactly.
So off to WCW he goes with the lights of a man named Paul E. Dangerously.
Oh, I've heard of that name before.
You guys might know him as Paul Heyman. And he works with him a little bit. He wins the United States Championship only a few months after he gets there. And then he jobbed it out and said, hey, the producers come up to him and they said, hey, Big Daddy, here's what's going to happen. We're going to make you into a tag team. I don't know who was booking. But I'm just saying. That's what the guy said.
That's the voice that comes to your head.
That's the voice that was said to Steve Austin. And
got it. Okay.
Hey, brother, here we go. It's going to be a filibuster on the 10.
Was it was it Dusty Rhodes that was booking it?
Who's to say?
That sounds like a Dusty Rhodes impression.
He said, we're going to put you in a tag team with a new guy. He's out of sight. He's number one, baby. We're going to call him Flying Brian Pillman. And he was like, I don't want to be in a tag team. I was doing good. I was the U.S. champion. And he's tag team. And
tag team.
There it goes. So, turns out was one of the best things that ever. Him and Pillman, just chocolate and peanut butter. They just melded together. They called themselves the Hollywood Blondes. Neither one of them from Hollywood.
Okay. I never knew that was who that was.
Mm-hmm.
I know of that name.
Yeah.
Is that why Brian Pillman Jr.'s tag team was called the Varsity Blondes?
That's exactly why it's called the Varsity Blondes.
Gotcha.
See, all of this comes around, folks. That's why This Is a Rewind is such an important podcast.
I love that. I did not realize that that's who was there. I just thought that those two guys, they were blonde and they dressed in Letterman jackets and had a cheerleader with them. So that's why I thought that they were called that. But honestly, I like that so much better.
There you go.
Okay,
there you
gotcha.
Go. So they start making this huge run, and they're funny. And they're delivering some great promos. They're making fun of Flair. They're making fun of Double A, which I didn't like, but that was. I was like that. Flair had his own show at the time called A Flair for the Gold, and he would sit down, and it was kind of like a Johnny Carson type thing, and he would look over, and he was like, I love what you've done with the place, Rick. I was like, I love that statue of the elderly person that you got sitting over there. It was Arn, and I mean he's.
Oh, funny.
I was like, they're taking pot shots and they're just having a great time. And
I love it.
Well, boom. They's like, okay, you're not in a tag team anymore. He's like, when you
I made it work.
he's like, what we're gonna do, we are gonna put you back with Paulie Dangerously, and you are going to join a stable called the Dangerous Alliance.
Okay.
Now, the Dangerous Alliance, headed up by Paulie Dangerously, was, oh God, did I write it down? I don't know if I did. I'm not gonna. I know it was Rick Rude. Oh yeah, okay, I got it. It was Rick Rude. It was beautiful Bobby Eaton. First of all, I don't know if the audience knows how much I love Bobby Eaton. There has never been a more technically sound wrestler in those times than Bobby Eaton, and he doesn't get the props for it. So Rick Rude, Bobby Eaton, Arn Anderson, and the living legend Larry Zbyszko. Trained, it comes out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it was trained by some jobber. And I also forgot to say Medusa,
So
Alondra Blaze.
I'm guessing you loved this stable
I did love this stable
because this sounds like right up your alley.
I did. I didn't care for Medusa, but who does? I mean, but
I don't think Medusa cared for Medusa.
no, God. Well, this didn't last too long because he got injured. And while he's waiting out his injury, WCW gives him a call and says, your injury has taken a little bit longer than we expected. And what we're gonna go ahead and exercise our termination in the contract, and we're gonna just go ahead and let you go. So now he's fired. He sits at home for a little bit, and he's like, "Man, I don't. What am I gonna do?" After some time, a voice from the past calls, and it's Paulie Dangerously again. And he says, I got a thing that's happening up here in Philadelphia, and I think you would be a good fit. Now he's like, I'm still injured. He's like, that's okay. Let's cut some vignettes. Why don't you just sit behind the mic, cut some promos, and you are going to be superstar Steve Austin. And Shelby, I have to tell you, if you have never heard these promos, this is where he starts to shine and have that it factor. These are some of the most beautiful shoot/work promos that I have ever heard in my life. He talks shit about Dusty. He talks shit about Arn. He talks shit about Flair. He talks shit about Steamboat. He talks shit about Vince McMahon, who he hasn't even met yet.
Oh, that's the start of something.
And it's just, there's some beautiful promos that come out of this.
Wow.
He only got to wrestle just a few matches there.
See, which I find really interesting because I feel like outside of WWE, I know him from ECW.
Right.
So to me, that's a little shocking that he wasn't there for very long, but I guess he was very influential when he was there. Yeah.
The beautiful part of this, after those promos, somebody at Titan Entertainment, we still called it that back then, saw those promos.
Oh.
And he got a phone call. He says, I think you would do very well up here in New York. And they spoke to Vince. Vince saw a tape of him as Stunning Steve Austin in WCW, and he's like, wow, this guy's really technical. He's a good mechanic. Let's bring him in, and we're gonna call him the Ringmaster. And I'll let you take over from here.
So what I have is I have from Attitude Era on.
Oh yeah.
Yes, because that's what I know him from.
Okay. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, you can keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's. I can do this
Okay.
all day. So it's.
Because I figured you were gonna not go for it, but like you were gonna have a little bit more than me history wise, and I was just gonna come in with the.
Oh, I was
flair
giving
at
you
the
cliff
end.
notes. I can go in depth.
No, I
if you
like the cliff notes. I like the cliff notes. I was just saying I have like Attitude Era. on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Kara's shaking her head. No, don't let him.
Don't let him off the leash.
Yeah. So okay. So the ringmaster, what kind of name is that? That's shit. Mm-hmm. And he was like, okay. He's just cut some of the best promos anybody's ever heard. Mm-hmm. And they get him in there and they won't let him talk. They give him Ted DiBiase, who's retired at this point, to be his manager. They give him the $1 million belt. Mm-hmm. They won't let him speak. He just stands there. Ted does all the talking for him. He didn't need Ted DiBiase. He didn't need the $1 million belt. Mm-hmm. And he goes in there and he just wails on everybody. Now, I've already told you about him speaking to the office about, hey, this ringmaster shit's not working.
Right.
So we've got to do something about this. We told you that story. Stone Cold Steve Austin is born. Now, he had this icy promo that is, you should Google it.
Yeah.
It's really, I'm not going to do it justice. But it was, it was Jake the Snake Roberts-esque.
Ooh, okay.
He was almost whispering when he talks about what's going to happen when somebody gets in the ring.
Oh, gosh.
With Stone Cold. I mean, it was so good. Well, after a few weeks of this, he goes to the King of the Ring. The king. Now, as it were, the King of the Ring is, back then, it was set to push the next big guy.
Yeah.
They had already set, the ground was already set and laid for a wrestler that we might know as Triple H.
Right.
However, his good friends, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was going out for an injury. Kevin Nash was leaving, and so was Scott Hall. In Madison Square Garden, they decided to do what is known now as the infamous curtain call, to where they all broke character. Now, I know this doesn't sound like a big deal to some of the people that watch now, but back then, kayfabe was still alive.
Right.
And it was a big no-no, especially in Madison Square Garden, because that's the official headquarters of WWE.
Well, I feel like in that moment, because I remember as I got older, I watched a clip, like a fan had recorded that moment. And when you're looking at it from a modern perspective, it just looks like four friends hugging each other and saying goodbye, which again is a common practice.
Happens all the time now.
I mean, all the time. I mean, I know for NXT's sake, I mean, that's pretty much a ritual. Like when they would get called to the main roster, like they'd have a whole ceremony where it would be just about the person, not the character.
Incidentally, I think that's a Triple H. Fuck you.
Knowing the history, no, I agree. But like, you could just kind of feel the crowd in the video just like tense up because they hug and you know, putting yourself in that time period and those people's minds who, I mean, I had, know people who had grandparents who legit would, ride or die for some of these people.
Oh, yeah.
And, would throw shoes at the TV and, because they thought that these were real people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I had a family member on my mom's side that did that.
Oh, I have no doubt.
But yeah, so I could understand, the feeling that would have to people back then.
So you got to understand what happens here. Nash and Hall, they don't care. They're leaving.
Well, sure.
Michaels doesn't care. He's out. He's going out for rehab, and he's going to be gone for the better part of 2 years. That only left one man, the one they were getting ready to push.
And they punished him for that.
And they punished him. They took away his push.
Wow.
And they sent him to the bottom of the card.
And is that when Stone Cold won it?
That's when Stone Cold was put in line to take that.
Again, with the luck.
Luck.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. This I'm seeing a pattern here. Yeah.
His referee for that first match was Nick Patrick. His referee, which I know you don't know that. He's a great referee. His referee for the main event of the King of the Ring with Jake the Snake Roberts, who had just come back and was supposedly sober at the time and committed his life to Christ at this time. And a hero of Austin's. His initial interview is with a guy named Doc Hendricks, but you guys would know him as Michael P.S. Hayes, one of the fabulous Freebirds, who Steve Austin used to go and watch at the Sportatorium.
Now, I can't imagine, going in and you're interviewing with people that not only you idolized, but, these are characters to you.
Yeah.
Right? That has to be such a crazy experience.
And this again, all of this, it's just set. It's laid out for him.
Right.
It's this is where I keep talking about luck, but he was ready for it every time. I'm not saying Steve Austin just got to where he got because of luck. He worked his ass off.
Right.
And he went through a lot of ups and downs, but when it got laid out for him, it was just a primrose path of flowers leading him all the way to gold. And he gets up after winning the King of the Ring, the match that is supposed to push you to the moon. And he gets up and his hero interviews him. And he throws out you talk about your faith and it didn't get you a damn thing. You can read in your Psalms and your John 3:16 all you want, but Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your ass. And my
One
God.
of the most iconic taglines in all of wrestling history.
And I'll tell you why. You didn't really mix religion and wrestling and entertainment back then. I mean, it was still all very separation of church and state.
It's still not done.
It's still not done, but it's done a little more. It's a little more loosey-goosey than it was back then.
Sure.
And in Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your ass. You can watch it back as many times as you want. You can kind of feel the audience gasp just a little. You see Michael Hayes. That's a real express, even though he overdoes it.
Of course, yeah.
But it's a real expression that he has because people just didn't talk that way, especially on television.
You know, I feel like that is something that is a little bit lost now, right? Because we don't really have anything that's off limits anymore.
Not really.
And
not really.
and that's just across the board, like in our culture. I feel like a lot, everything is, starting to be accepted, which is great. But like at the same time, we now don't have the nuances that we had back then, right? Because him saying that, if this was the first time that had ever been said, and that was said in like 2017, 2019 or whatever, like it wouldn't have had the impact that it had back then, and it probably would have just been a throwaway line.
Yeah.
Because like the shock of it, like you said, is what stuck with everybody's minds, and that's where the merchandise came in. That's where, people started getting that tattooed on themselves. Like it's if you look in the modern day wrestling audience now, you will find a shirt, a sign, or something that not just has something to do with Austin 316, but just has something 316
right
on it. So if that's someone else's name, if that's like a company's name or like whatever, like that was then marketed and they just went with it.
And that's something else that boosted Austin that nobody really talks about, because before this particular moment, you could only get wrestling paraphernalia, swag, shirts, things like that. You could only order that through the catalogs.
Right, like you had to mail the order in and all that, yeah.
But it just happened about this time that they got deals with Walmart. So, poof, Austin 316 shirts appear in a store where everybody goes and everybody sees Austin 316 and everybody can buy these shirts now, and he's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger with his name on the back, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I think you can argue that he might be one of the first wrestlers to ever go quote unquote viral.
100%.
Because of that moment. So like what we call viral now has to do with the internet, right? And like it's very common now for people to go viral, right? Like you hear that term like all the time, but like I feel like this could be the start of where that wrestling viral goes, right? Because now that everybody, someone says a catchphrase or someone makes a cool design of a shirt and it's like all over the place, and anyone in like all the way in New Zealand can buy it.
Especially from WWE or back then Titan Entertainment, because nothing has really changed from the WWF to now. Their champions, their golden boys were manufactured. Bruno Sammartino, manufactured. Oh my God, I just forgot his name. It doesn't matter. We'll skip it. Hogan. Even our new guy, Roman freaking Reigns.
Yeah.
John Cena. Extremely manufactured. We can keep going, but Austin, or The Rock, even it wasn't lightning in a bottle with The Rock. It was because they hated him, because WWE hated the manufactured product of Hogan and Cena and
But I think that's what was so appealing about Austin at that time, because I think this kind of goes into the Attitude Era, right?
Exactly.
Because
this is the beginning of it.
Yeah, and this is when my baby Shelby came into the fray, because this was basically when I was a kid, and I know I've told this story before, my dad and I would watch wrestling together. And the only wrestler that I remember during that time was Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Absolutely.
So if I sit here and I think about watching with him, he is the only person, like wrestler in general, man, woman, anybody, that comes to my mind. And I feel like it's because he had this iconic look that I feel like everybody, I mean, anyone who knows anything about wrestling knows his look, right? And I found this when I was looking through stuff tonight. I found this Wikipedia, section that I feel like it really encapsulates like his look.
Yeah.
So it says, sporting a bald head and goatee coupled with his ring attire, which consisted of plain black trunks and boots, Austin relied solely on his personality to become popular. As Stone Cold, Austin was portrayed on screen as an anti-authority rebel who would consistently cuss and defy the company rules and guidelines of WWE chairman Vince McMahon. One of Austin's taunts during the Attitude Era was to show the middle finger. To complement his persona, Austin was the recipient of 2 additional nicknames. Commentator and friend Jim Ross dubbed him the Texas Rattlesnake due to the character's mannerisms, the motivation, the mindset, you can't trust this son of a bitch, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
While Austin later named himself the Bionic Redneck.
Yeah.
On account of the injuries he had suffered to his arms, neck, and knees. Austin has said he is eternally in debt to Ross for helping this character become popular. So, and then it talks about the what chants that Kara did earlier. So it said in 2001, he began using his catchphrase, what, to interrupt wrestlers. And now that is something that, to this day, everybody does. Which, not wrestlers, but fans, which I feel like everyone hates him for now.
I kind of do. I think
I was saying the wrestlers hate him now because
a little bit.
Sometimes if the fans kind of use it as a gauge of like, okay, this is boring, we need to move on, or we can't understand you, or like, so it can kind of get a little, dicey.
Well, the thing about the wrestling promo, it's always been very generic.
Right.
And the way you speak when you're in the ring is 3, 5, and 6 word syllables.
Very robotic.
Because if you go more than that, you might lose the audience. And
sure. And I feel like he created a lot of stuff like that.
He did, yeah.
And then so you had his look. That was simple. You had his, now I don't mean this as a dig, but his moveset was simple. Right? Like he didn't do a lot of complicated shit.
Right.
Right? It was a lot of,
not during that time.
No, not during that time. But I think that because the stunner is still used to this day.
In several different versions.
Yeah, and I think that for me as a kid, seeing my dad react to him was very influential because I think he related to him in a way that a lot of working class Americans did at the time, right? Everybody had that one job where you had that one boss that you just couldn't stand and you just wish you could have just cussed him out and flipped him off and walked out the door. And he would do that on a weekly basis.
And it was that point in time where people were starting to get angry at authority figures because they've been pushing them down for about 20, maybe 30 years, and people were just getting tired of it. And then here comes this guy on television that is sticking his middle finger up to the man, which is another fun fact. The casual wrestling fan did not realize that Vince McMahon was the owner of the company until Austin got there. I remember being a younger man, and people are talking and they're actually correct. They're like, well, Vince McMahon, he needs to be doing this, and this, and we're like, no, Vince is a commentator. He doesn't. He's just a commentator. You just see him doing the interviews and stuff.
Right.
He's not that guy.
He doesn't have that power.
And I did that for an upsetting amount of years.
Oh, that's funny. Which I think that is because I feel like that created what later went on to be the Authority, right? Because it was Vince, Triple H, Stephanie, and Shane, right? They were the on-screen Authority, but they ended up being the actual Authority,
right?
So I think that can be linked to the start of we're letting you peek behind the curtain here. Mm-hmm. We're letting you see how the sausage is made.
Yeah,
and that's when people start to get interested in that.
Yeah, because people were just then finding out, like, as a general rule, we know Vince McMahon runs WWF.
Right.
And that was your first, we're like, oh, this is really, well, Austin can't, he can't talk to him that way. How can he talk to him that way and not get fired? He just shot him the bird. And that's what made this thing so great.
Yeah, and I feel like, I know there's a lot of other stuff that he has done from then till now,
yeah.
But I feel like going through all of that and then coming to where we are now, I mean, the dude headlined one of the nights of WrestleMania last year.
Right.
And after being, 19 years away from the ring?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, and still has the same charisma, still has the same air about him.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I know it's not possible, but if he could still be on TV, I would watch it.
I would too.
I mean, he still has his own stuff. Like, I know he has his own show and has his own beer and,
several. He's got like 3 shows.
Yeah, exactly. So he's building his own empire. So I know that there's shit I can watch if I want to.
And this goes back to this isn't luck at this point. This is the hard work that he still possesses that discipline.
Yeah. And I feel like the fact that everything that he does has such staying power and has influenced a lot of what the modern everyman.
Yeah.
Right? Because not everybody can do that. Not every wrestler can pull the everyman
You're right.
off, right? Because
You're
a lot of guys can do the manufactured, they can do the high flying, they can do the Shawn Michaels, they can, they can do all of that stuff, but I feel like not a lot of guys can do the everyman and make it believable, because like in everyman you want to root for.
Yeah.
You want to, not that he's an underdog per se, but you want to be behind him, right? And I feel like that takes a certain kind of person and charisma and attitude to achieve that.
Well, the thing about it, he looked like every man. Maybe not body style, but this was also a point in time where guys that were going bald, they weren't trying to comb over anymore.
Right.
They were just shaving it off. And it was like, and the only person that we had before that would it was Tully Savalas, and back in the 70s. And we made fun of him. Austin does it, and we're like, oh, he looks awesome.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, everything he does has staying power. And I think, he's
it
supposed
all just happened.
Yeah.
Everything fell into place for him. It was everything he did happened at the perfect moment at the perfect time.
But I think he's still in the modern day, like, sense of him. He is the type of person that, like, because you have some legends that they come back and you're like, oh, cool, they're back. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What are they gonna do? Oh, they're gonna wrestle. Okay, cool. Like, but with him, when he came back and did the build up to WrestleMania last year, I was genuinely excited. Even if he was just there to do the talk show segment, and then when they announced he was wrestling, I was like, I'm terrified, but I have to watch this, right? Because I've said on this show before, like, I can't stand it when I know that people have life-threatening injuries and they're like, I'm gonna come back and it's gonna be fine. But I know that he is possibly slated again for this year, so I think it'll be interesting, but I think he's one of those people that he can come back and people won't be mad about it.
Personally, it would not hurt my feelings I don't say this about many people, but it would not hurt my feelings if he gave up his podcast and his Broken Skull Ranch and his Broken Skull Sessions and everything else that he does, and goes back on tour in a general manager, a manager, something like that.
He could manage Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
I would love that. I mean, I know Kevin Owens can talk for himself, but
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't
okay,
like
fine. We can scrap it. Kara, just scrap that from the record. Okay, write that time code down, and we can,
so
mark
when
that
Vince
out.
calls and says, "Hey, what do you guys have for us?" Don't tell him about that one.
Yeah, because he definitely listens to this.
100%.
But
I gotta see what's going on. This is a rewind.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't heard from those sons of bitches in 6 months.
You know what, Vince? If you're listening, I don't want you to listen. I don't, just go away. Just go away. But yeah, I mean, I felt like he was the perfect person to talk about for our first one.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I think we pretty much covered it.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if we want to sit here for another 2 hours and go through, everyone's career,
which
then,
I can totally do with Austin.
Yeah, but I'm hungry. Preco's got to eat, Doggz.
That's true. That's true. We're eating for two now.
Eating for two.
I've been eating for two for a while, and
well, yeah. I mean, we got to swap pregnancy stories, right?
I was so bloated the other night.
Oh my God, tell me about it. But yeah, I think so. So our next episode, how we're going to decide that?
Ooh, how are we going to decide that?
No, I know what we're going to do. So
what would that be?
Producer Kara has uploaded of our lists.
Well, wait a minute. I thought we were done with that.
No.
I didn't think she was going to.
No. This is how we're going to choose.
So she's
going to
continue to pick for us?
Hell yeah.
Well, now, wait a minute.
No. We agreed to this. And I think this is a great idea. So producer Kara has uploaded all of our, the rest of our list onto the spinny wheel is what I'm going to call it. And our wheel of wrestlers, and she's going to spin it at the end of every episode. And that's how we're going to decide what wrestler we're going to talk about next time.
Well, I didn't agree to this.
I agreed to it. Kara, spin the wheel.
All right. Spinning the wheel.
How did nobody notice that wheel was at the back of the kayfabe outpost?
I mean, it's crazy how that we built that in such a small, space.
Ooh.
Who is it?
Our next episode will be Finn Balor.
Yes!
I almost thought.
Oh, that's going to be a me episode.
Yeah.
So, I'm so excited. Okay, so listeners, next episode, we are going to talk about Finn Balor in our greatest wrestlers of all time.
Right.
And I'm sure you can guess whose list they were on.
Oh, yeah.
Especially this one.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun.
That one's going to be in February.
Yes, it is.
I think what we're going to shoot for, guys, and God, don't take this as gospel because who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But we're going to shoot for the first week, maybe second, of every month. So this is going to be first week of February.
Yeah.
Maybe the second. It just depends on how our schedules
Of
work
course.
out.
And, maybe around June, I will find someone to fill in for me that month, maybe, because I'm going to be a little bit busy.
Doing what?
Oh, just birthing a baby. But we'll have someone come on and it'll be great. And it'll be awesome.
Everybody looks for an excuse, don't they?
Yeah, I'm planning out an excuse to miss that particular one. But
you don't even know what the topic is.
And I have
yet.
no idea who it is exactly. But yeah, I think this will be a fun series for us to do, and
Absolutely.
I'm excited for the listeners to hear the diverse list that we have going on here. And yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah. Now we usually play a game at the end of. We're not going to play a game this time because I forgot. But
well, I think for this series we have enough to talk about.
we do.
That I feel like the wheel can be our game at
Yeah,
the end. Yeah.
I do have an idea for a game. Towards I think we'll probably do it in December.
Okay.
That's.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So we may work one in if we got a short episode. So we'll see what happens.
So I know that our next wrestling pay-per-view is our group's all-time favorite, the Royal Rumble.
Oh, boy, you better bring it.
I'm telling
you owe us money from last year.
WWE, you owe us a lot more than money. You owe us time. You owe us sanity. That pay-per-view was garbage.
Oh my God.
So I have high hopes going into this one. I love the Rumble. We have said before that it is hard to mess up a Rumble. They did it last year. I hope they can redeem. I said redeem. Redeem themselves. Oh no, did I just jinx them?
I think you jinxed it.
Damn it.
Well, we've got some rumors. How we doing on time, Kara?
Oh gosh.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So we've got some rumors. There's talk of Cody coming back.
Yeah, that's a big one. He's on the poster now, so
Yeah.
I think that's more than just a rumor.
Right. There's talk of Cena.
Yeah.
There's still talk of Rock coming back.
For the Rumble?
And on the road to WrestleMania,
Yeah,
so it
okay.
would start here at
Okay.
least.
He can just appear at the pay-per-view. He doesn't have to
That's
be in the
fine.
Rumble.
Yeah, you don't, and
No one-
he
yeah.
doesn't have to be at WrestleMania either for my money.
But yeah, I feel like because you and Chris are going to be reviewing that one, right?
Yeah, that's gonna be us. That's gonna be us.
It's the one of the big four.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'll tell you something. If you guys want to follow me, I am on TikTok at This Is a Work, also at Two Doggz, 2DOGGZ. You can also get me on Instagram at This Is a Work Podcast.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Social media manager over here.
Yeah. I am on Twitter. I'm never on there. I never tweet anything. But if you want to hit me up, please do. I can be reached there.
While it still exists.
Yeah, right on.
Well, and if you want to follow me, you can do that on Instagram at SlayAllRay. And if you want to follow us at Long Walk Podcast as a group, you can just look us up, Long Walk Podcast, on both Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
And as always, we want to thank our producer, Kara Hayes,
Heyo.
for helping us out. It's always fun.
Always a pleasure.
And so for Kara Hayes and Shelby Death Ray Patterson, this is David Two Doggz Hayes saying, guys, it's fun to look back at the past, but live in the present. As far as anything else goes, we're going to call it in the ring.
Bye, y'all.